Today, I'm going to rank the top 15 DeFi projects in a tier list, and for each one, I'll include the strongest pros and cons that I could find. My ultimate goal here is to help you decide which ones to potentially buy during this bear market. Alright, there's no better project to start off with than our favorite pink unicorn DEX, Uniswap. It's the most popular DEX by a bunch of different metrics, and I actually held a lot of Uni tokens back during the bull market. So my first pro is that they were pioneers in the DeFi space. They popularized the AMM model that most DEXs use these days. They also never stopped innovating. After launching their V1 in 2018, they released V2 in 2020 and V3 in 2021. Each upgrade brought more game-changing features that made them even better than their competitors. Now, something else I'm excited about is their fee switch, because Uniswap always had the option to send some trading fees directly to their token holders, but they never really entertained that option until now. They're currently testing it out, and if they decide to make it permanent, then I want to buy a huge bag of Uni again for that sweet passive income. Now, as for cons, it's that the fee switch could also screw things up for them. Some people are worried that liquidity providers will take their capital elsewhere because the fee switch reduces their revenue. Other people say that a fee switch could make Uni a security because it shares revenue with passive holders, which is a no-no in the eyes of the SEC. Those are both fair concerns, but I'm still giving them an S because the pros far outweigh the cons in my opinion. Next, we got a project that you know is legit because they had a whole war named after them. Yep, that'd be Curve and their infamous Curve Wars. So Curve is an AMM DEX like Uniswap, but it's really meant for like-kind assets, like swapping USDT for USDC or ETH for staked ETH. In terms of pros, I like that they're the #1 DEX in terms of total value locked. I also like how they offer higher yields by putting their LPs collateral into other DeFi protocols and passing that yield through to them. But I think the biggest pro of them all is how they designed their Curve token incentives, because it's honestly brilliant. In a nutshell, if you stake their token, you have the power to direct rewards to whichever liquidity pool you want. So of course DeFi projects want their own Curve pool to get the most liquidity. So they were fighting over Curve tokens to see who could get the most. I gotta say, that whole saga was quite impressive to see. Now on the con side, it's mainly that their complex design leaves them open to advanced attacks. One such attack was the Mochi governance attack, where a project got banned for abusing the system with their own ingenious scheme. Now either way, I'm giving Curve an A for being an integral piece of the DeFi world. Next, we got a project that I personally use all the time, and that'd be DYDX. They are also a DEX, but they do perpetual futures instead of spot trading. That means you can go long or short on their exchange instead of just swapping one asset for another. One thing that's special about them is that they're built on a layer 2 blockchain, Starkware's StarkX to be specific. And in terms of pros, I gotta give them props for their smooth user experience. It's really a joy to use. I also applaud them for their trading volume because it is quite substantial, and that's a surefire sign of product market fit. But on the con side, it have to be their decision to move to Cosmos, because I feel like it'll take a lot more effort to get funds on there, so I don't know if I'm going to move with them. Another con is that their token is mostly a governance token and doesn't give us that much utility for holding it. But I will say that once they become their own Cosmos app chain, they could give their token a lot more utility, like make their validators stake it, for example. Overall, I'm giving them a B. It's a solid project, but their upcoming move does bring some uncertainty. Next, we got a superhero project. Yep, that'd be THORchain. So this project lets you do cross-chain swaps. Like you can swap Bitcoin for Ether on their own networks without using wrapped assets. THORchain's Rune token also plays a key role in their whole system. Like they have a BTC Rune pool and an ETH Rune pool. So if you want to go from BTC to ETH, you can go through Rune in the middle. Now in terms of pros, I like that they're targeting an important underserved use case, which is swapping between chains in a trustless manner. I also like how they have some cool features, such as continuous liquidity pools and synthetic assets. Now on the con side, the biggest one would have to be how their architecture is so dang complex. Like their protocol has over 200,000 lines of code, and their behind the scenes workflow is super complicated as well. So I'm not surprised that they faced a bunch of hacks and outages before, because more complexity equals more risk. That's why I'm giving them a C. It's a cool project, but I wouldn't personally use them. Next up, we got a project that's considered DeFi 2.0, and that'd be Olympus DAO. So this project is really unique because they're trying to create their own reserve currency. Like they're trying to be a central bank with their own monetary policy, treasury, and things like that, but managed by smart contracts, of course. Their Ohm token is the reserve currency, and it's backed by assets in their treasury. It is backed, but it is not pegged to anything, so it's not trying to be a stablecoin. Now, in terms of pros, I gotta give them credit for capturing the imagination of the crypto world. Back in 2021, so many people were putting 3,3s in their Twitter names, and that just means that they were staking Ohm and telling other people to join them. The community's collective buy-in was how Ohm was able to rocket not once, but twice before coming back down. Now, something else I like was that they were tackling one of the biggest problems in DeFi, aka mercenary capital. I'm not going to go too deep here, but just note that their innovative bonding system gave projects a way to control their own liquidity, rather than relying on fickle users for it. So that was amazing, but on the negative side, they had heavy Ponzi-nomics in their own system. Like at one point, the APY for staking Ohm was over 15,000%. No joke, there's no way to get that much without being a Ponzi. And the system did eventually collapse as the price of Ohm crashed 99% back down to its asset-backed value. That's why I gotta give them a D. It was a fun experiment, but I'm glad I never touched it. Next, we got our first project in the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem, PancakeSwap. So this is the top DEX in the BSC world, and there's a lot to like about them. They are fast and cheap, and they have great adoption too. They even built a bunch of cool features like a launchpad, NFT marketplace, and a lottery system. But on the negative side, I gotta say that their tokenomics is pretty subpar. Like their cake token inflation is super high, and that means existing holders are getting diluted like crazy. I'm also not a fan of BSC in general because it's quite centralized, and you can kind of tell that Binance doesn't prioritize it by how they leave bugs unfixed for months. So ultimately, I think that limits PancakeSwap's potential, and that's a big reason why I'm giving them a B. Next is a project made by the godfather of DeFi. Yep, that'd be Yearn, and it was founded by Andre Cronje. Now, Andre was one of the most prolific DeFi developers ever, but I don't really like him because he jumped from project to project and he ended up quitting on all of us earlier this year. Anyways, his Yearn project essentially kicked off the yield farming revolution. It's a yield aggregator platform that made it easy for people to hunt down the highest yields. You can jump from opportunity to opportunity without having to manage your positions manually. So that ease of use was probably why it became so popular, and it's probably why their YFI token rocketed too. Speaking of their token, I really like how they did a fair launch for it. The devs didn't get any, VCs didn't get any. It was simply split between their liquidity providers and early users. So that made it more fair than like 99% of the projects out there. Now on the con side, I don't like how their usage has dropped so much during the bear market. Their yields suck right now, and that's probably why their TVL fell off a cliff. That's why I gotta give them a B. It's okay, but I don't see a bright future now that Andre is gone. Next, we got a project that gave birth to the most beautiful stablecoin out there. Yep, that'd be MakerDAO and its stablecoin DAI. Now, Maker is a lending platform at its core. You put in collateral and take out loans and there's DAI stablecoin. In terms of pros, there's a lot of them. I like their first movers advantage. I like how DAI is decentralized in a world of centralized stablecoins. And I like how DAI is super conservative in its model, so we don't have to worry about it losing its peg. There's a lot more pros that I could list for days, but to save some time, let's turn to the cons. And one concern is that DAI can potentially be censored. Well, actually DAI itself is permissionless, but Maker does accept USDC as collateral. And we know that USDC can be frozen by Circle, so it's a risk that DAI could one day be under collateralized if some of their backing was frozen. Now that is a fair concern, but their community knows it, so they're working on fixing that. That's why I feel comfortable placing them in the S tier, because Maker and DAI are two of the most important entities in all of DeFi. Next up is a project that's different from everything else we've covered so far. It's called Synthetix, and it's a protocol that lets you trade all sorts of assets like Tesla stock, silver, the Japanese yen, all on the blockchain. They do so by creating synthetic assets that track those different things and by using their own SNX token as collateral. In terms of pros, I like their approach of trading against an overall debt pool because that's better for liquidity than making everything have its own individual pool. I also like their adoption, which is still decent during the bear market. Just look at their fees generated and their trading volume. It's not bad. They also have a booming ecosystem of projects building on top of their protocol. Go check out Quenta, Lyra, and Thales, just to name a few. Now on the negative side, one thing I don't like is that they're extremely capital inefficient, because in order to issue a new synthetic asset, you need to reach over 500% collateralization ratio with your deposits. That's honestly a lot to ask for, and it could turn away people from using them. But overall, I'm still gonna give them an A because they are the leaders in their niche and they have a good track record too. Next up, we got one of the OG DeFi projects, Compound Finance. Now, Compound is simple. They let you lend and borrow a bunch of different assets, and the interest rates are set algorithmically based on supply and demand. That's pretty much it. It's so simple, yet it's a critical piece of the DeFi world. Some things I like about them are they score well on every adoption metric, their token incentive program pretty much kicked off DeFi summer back in 2020, and they created their own new blockchain called Gateway that looks like a game changer. Now, that's the good stuff, but in terms of cons, there's a couple to note. One of them is that mercenary users took advantage of their liquidity mining program, and that put a lot of pressure on their token's price. Another con is that they've been losing a lot of ground to their competitors recently. So all things considered, I'm giving them a B. I do like them, but I don't love them. Next up, we got Convex, a project whose sole purpose is to help Curve users maximize their yield. See, I wasn't joking when I said that the Curve wars were so important. We have entire projects like Convex that exist just to help people navigate that. Now, in terms of pros, I like that their system is super flexible and affordable for users. That's probably why Convex has grown immensely, and all signs point to them winning the Curve wars. And you know what's interesting? Because Convex has so much power over Curve now, some projects have started acquiring Convex tokens instead so that they can indirectly influence Curve emissions through Convex. So we essentially went from Curve wars to Convex wars. Now, in terms of cons, one of them is that Convex is extremely reliant on Curve. They will only go as far as Curve goes, so I can't ever see Convex's market cap going above Curve's. Now, to be fair, Convex has expanded beyond Curve to support Frax, but I think that's a simple yield farming play, so it's not very interesting to me. That's why I'm giving them a B. Decent project, but ultimately dependent on another one. Next, we got a project that did a literal 2000x gain from bear market low to subsequent bull market high, and that'd be Aave. Go look it up yourself if you don't believe me. They used to be called ETHLend before they rebranded to Aave. Anyways, this is a lending and borrowing platform similar to Compound. And in terms of pros, I love that they're growing faster than their peers. In fact, Aave is now the third largest DeFi protocol in terms of total value locked, and it's the largest one under the lending category. They're also innovative because they launched their Flash Loans feature, which lets you temporarily borrow assets with zero collateral. That's gained a lot of popularity and usage in the DeFi world, so hats off to them for creating it. They also launched their V3 platform recently and plan on releasing their own stablecoin as well. So yeah, they're non-stop building, and I love that about them. Now, if I were to nitpick, one complaint would be that their Flash loans have been used for attacks around the DeFi space, but I won't blame them too much for that, so I'm still giving them an A rating. Next up, we got a project that I had so much hope for, but it let me down big time, and that'd be Augur. This was a predictions market project that launched way back in 2014. And it made so much sense, right? Permissionless prediction markets that let you bet on the outcome of any event, elections, sports, whatever. So one thing I like about them is that they're truly decentralized and immune to regulations. Like the Augur team went as far as burning their kill switch key, so it's literally unstoppable as long as the Ethereum network keeps running. And something else I like is that they have this advanced game theory process to make sure that disputed results are settled properly. And so far, that hasn't let them down. But on the negative side, it'd be that no one really uses them. Augur V1 had all sorts of problems, so it makes sense that adoption was low. But even with their V2 out, it's still struggling, and competitors such as Polymarket have been doing better. So overall, I'm giving them a C. I really wish it was better, but their adoption is just pitiful. Next, we got an up-and-coming project that's gunning for DYDX, and that'd be Perpetual Protocol. So both of them offer perpetual futures trading, but Perpetual Protocol does it a bit differently. They use a virtual AMM model, which means that no real assets are stored in their liquidity pools. It's all synthetic or virtual instead. That's actually quite the innovative approach, and I'm a fan of it. I also like how they're constantly launching. In late 2021, they had had their first big upgrade called Curie that solved a lot of problems that they were facing. But on the negative side, it had to be that they don't have any on-chain governance yet. And if we look at the stats, they are losing ground to their competitors, such as Keeper Network, DYDX, and GMX. So at this point, I can't give them more than a B. They gotta catch up to their peers first before I can move them up. Next, we have one of the most powerful projects in the Ethereum world, and that'd be Lido Finance. So Lido is a liquid staking service. You send your ETH to their pools, they stake it for you, and give you their STETH token in return, so you can stay liquid. The reason why Lido is so powerful is because they control a massive 30% of the staked ETH out there. And that's actually my first pro, that they're absolutely killing it in their own niche. They're also super well integrated across all of DeFi. Like, you can use their STETH token pretty much as if it were ETH itself. Also, Lido has started to support other blockchains so that they aren't just relying on one network. Now, in terms of cons, one thing would be that they're quite centralized. As of right now, there's only 23 validator nodes that are part of the Lido system, and each new one has to be approved by them in a permissioned manner. So that's not good, especially since Lido's stake gives them immense power over the Ethereum network. And besides that, I also don't like their tokenomics because it's quite centralized, and also their token is just a governance token, so it doesn't accrue value that well. But overall, I still want to give them an A because I think they're so critical to Ethereum, and their team is working on improving their flaws. Alright, here it is in all its glory. Let me know if I missed anything or if there's anything you disagree with. And if you like this one, you gotta watch this video for my layer 2 tier list. I guarantee you'll like it.